All right, man, peace. So a couple of weeks ago, word around the campfire was that the Boston Celtics were looking to possibly trade for the superstar power forward slash center of the New Orleans Pelicans, Anthony Davis. Of course, in light of his tremendous performance against the Boston Celtics, it's going to be much more difficult for them to acquire him because his stock is going to keep rising. Now it's starting to become more and more popular to talk about his potential trade to the Boston Celtics. Of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
Antonietta, thank you kindly. Anthony Davis scores 45 points and 6 rebounds to snap the Celtics' 7-game win streak. Davis has been rumored to be on the Celtics' radar for a while now. Stephen A., if this trade is possible, what should the C's give up for him?
You know, before Steve answers, I'm already on record as stating that if they can get away with maybe getting a third and a fourth team involved in this trade, the Celtics should do so. Because if they can, for the most part, keep their team intact and maybe just get rid of Al Horford and a first-round draft pick for Anthony Davis, I would certainly put them at the top right now as far as favorites to win the championship, right there with the Golden State Warriors. And I think that the level of defense that they would be able to play on the Warriors would give the Warriors something that they will not have faced across the league. Most of these teams try to stay with the Warriors by scoring with them. That's not going to happen. That's like trying to match hand speed with Muhammad Ali in his prime. You have to be able to do something that someone who has an exceeding amount of talent like a Muhammad Ali had, that he's uncomfortable with or that he has shown is his Achilles heel. That's why fighters with a great left hook always gave Ali problems. If you tried to match hand speed with him, you could not beat him. Same thing with the Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors make a lot of mistakes, and oftentimes they start to zone out because their talent level is so high. Their concentration can waver. That's where a team like Boston that plays extreme defense and also on offense utilizes an execution style of offense where it's not just one-on-one basketball play. They have ball movement off of the ball, back cuts, pin downs, etc. Basically using Golden State's best aspects against them. Not just standing outside the three-point line trying to match threes with them like a Houston or a Cleveland tries to do, which is going to fail. Anyway, if Boston can swing that trade without getting rid of any of their young assets, I put them right there. If they have to trade for AD by getting rid of either Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum, I really don't want to get rid of those prospects. I like what I see when I watch Boston. They're very, very fun to watch. One of their weaknesses was revealed, though, in that game against New Orleans. They have trouble with size, with big men that are skilled. All right, not just size, but size with skills, which anybody who faces New Orleans is going to have a problem with those two guys because they're basically shooting guards with big man size.
Honestly speaking, first of all, I want to commend Danny Ainge for the fabulous job that he's done. And Brad Stevens is a phenomenal coach, and he deserves a lot of respect. This team together, standing pat, could legitimately compete for the crown. If Gordon Hayward were healthy, I think that they'd be competing right now.
I agree. But when I watched the game last night, Aaron Baines is a major eyesore. He has bad hands. Of course, he's athletically challenged. His skill level is very low. He basically just seems to be a body out there. And when they went up against New Orleans, he really got exposed because, of course, New Orleans has two of the top three best big men in the NBA. Now, the good news is that should Boston get to the finals, they would not have to worry about being exposed in that way because Golden State will not offer those same difficulties.
Even though they are, because they're top seed. To answer the question directly, I'm going to put this out on Front Street. First of all, I'd give Al Horford away in a heartbeat.
Agreed.
He's good, but he ain't on Anthony Davis's level.
Absolutely not. Only thing with AD is that he's going to have to stay healthy.
That's number one. If I had to give up one of the two, I would give up Jason Tatum. It's not that I don't think he's bad. Listen, he's only 19. He's special. He's longer than Jaylen Brown, and I get all of that. But it's if you were to acquire Anthony Davis, he might get in the way of that because of the requisite skills that Anthony Davis brings to the table. Now, obviously, Jason Tatum could go on the bench or whatever the case may be, but I'm just talking about I would prefer not to have to give up anybody. But I love Jaylen Brown, just like I love Jason Tatum. If I had to give up one of the two, I think that Jaylen Brown complements Jason Tatum more than complements Anthony Davis more than Tatum would.
I partially agree with Stephen A. on that. But if by happenstance you're able to involve a third or a fourth team in that trade and get back AD and not give up either one of those assets, AD would have to learn how to play with Tatum anyway. So really, with all the draft picks that the Celtics have, I don't see why this should be a problem. All you have to do is get a third or a fourth team involved in this trade and, get it done. New Orleans is not winning a championship. They are going to be dangerous if they learn how to play together, particularly if they get strong guard play from Drew Holiday down the stretch of the season into the playoffs. They're going to be dangerous. I could see New Orleans knocking off a San Antonio or a Houston in the playoffs. It wouldn't shock me. Would not shock me if that happened, particularly if they get strong guard play from Drew Holiday. But as of right now, if Boston can swing that trade, if they have to let go of one, I would agree with Steve. Most likely just let Tatum go, because Jaylen Brown, you can actually play him at the 2 or the 3. And if you can get Gordon Hayward back by the end of the season, maybe the last month, depending on how his rehab goes, if you can get him back maybe early April, who knows? But as grotesque as that injury was, it's probably best that he just sit his ass down.
And that's the only reason. Numbers-wise, obviously, with Anthony Davis, Max making 25 next year, 27 the year after, 20 the year after that, or what have you. The salaries got to be commensurate with one another. We get all of that. But I throw Horford into the mix. He would definitely be a gimme. And if I had to give up, because if I'm the New Orleans Pelicans, there's no way in hell I'm making a deal letting go of Anthony Davis if I'm not getting Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum or both.
Well, it depends. It's only if it's a one-on-one trade. Once again, Danny Ainge got to get on the phone and involve a third or a fourth team and see what he can get done with that.
So since if I had the choice and I had to give up one of them, if I'm New Orleans, I might demand whatever. But if I'm the Boston Celtics, I would give up Tatum along with Al Horford to get Anthony Davis. Yes, I would.
Boy, there's a lot here. Let me start by saying, if I'm the Celtics, ultimately, of course, I'd love to hang on to Tatum and Brown, but you're going to have to bring some to get some in this case. You're going to have to, it's going to be painful what you give up. But if you have a chance to get Anthony Davis, I know, well, the Celtics are on the verge. They didn't win no championship this year. I got bad news for Celtics fans. You're really good. I don't think you're going to get to the finals, but even if you do, Golden State's going to do all kinds of things. Don't worry about that.
Well, look, I partially agree with Max. I think that the Celtics would definitely give Golden State a better run than Cleveland would, because the Celtics are far better coached and they have a better mindset on the floor. They're younger, so they're able to defend all the way out past the three-point line, which are things that Cleveland simply could not do. But they do have to try to get AD if they can get him. They do. And they have to try to involve a third and a fourth team in this trade and see if they can keep all their assets. They have more than enough draft picks to keep their assets and maybe just get rid of Al Horford, maybe even throw Baines in there. Who knows? New Orleans is not going anywhere, and they're most likely not going to re-sign Boogie Cousins. New Orleans, from what I understand, is about $700,000 under the cap. This is a team that's around 500 right now, a little bit above 500. So if you're Boston, you're hoping that New Orleans goes into a little spill where maybe over the next 10 games they go 3-7, can lower their overall team prognostications for the playoffs, and AD will be more available on the market.
You're not ready for Golden State yet, barring catastrophic injury to Golden State, and maybe you will be eventually. Danny Ainge has done a phenomenal job with the Celtics, showing Stephen A. what you talk about when you hate the process in Philly. There is a way to do it. Stay relevant while you do it and build for the future. But boy, that's the hardest thing to do. Danny Ainge has pulled it off. Kudos to him. So before I get to the specifics of the deal, the reason you must get Anthony Davis if you have a chance, Stephen A., we talk about who's the second best player in the world to LeBron James. Is it Kevin Durant? I bring up Kawhi Leonard. Anthony Davis might be the answer. He is right there. We're so focused on what's next with the...
These guys are all over the place. Like a damn chick on her menstrual. First, the second best player is KD. Now it's Anthony Davis. Look, Anthony Davis is a great player, but he does have injury issues. But even fully healthy, he's not on the level of a Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant can do things that even Anthony Davis can't do. I mean, to be quite frank with you, Kevin Durant is doing things right now that LeBron James doesn't do.
With the bigs, right? Kristaps Porzingis, Joel Embiid, Karl Anthony Towns. We forget about what's right now. Anthony Davis is the best in the game. It is not close among rim-protecting guys who can also score bigs. He is every bit as good as Durant or Kawhi. The only guy better than him is LeBron James. And he's entering his prime, and he's locked up for several more seasons.
Look, this guy, you need to be his publicist. And I really like Anthony Davis. I think that the sky's the limit with him. But he hadn't shown me enough in the playoffs to put him above Kevin Durant. I mean, he's only made the playoffs one time.
The whole history of the NBA is if a guy like that is available, you do whatever it takes to get him. That said, if I'm the Celtics, I'd say can't have Kyrie or Tatum, even though ultimately I think I give you anything you want other than Kyrie. You can have anything else you want, any other two players, maybe three. Because if you put Anthony Davis with Kyrie Irving and Jason Tatum, I mean, you want Hayward and Horford, I don't know if the money works there, you can have them. You have that, you have the nucleus of a dominant championship team.
You lost me. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you correctly. Are you saying that Kyrie is the only untouchable, or you're lumping Jason Tatum into that?
Well, listen. When you say untouchable, I'm holding on to Tatum.
Don't be literal. Don't worry. I apologize. Don't be literal. What I mean is,
I'd like to protect Kyrie and Tatum. Those are the keepers.
You're saying that the keeper is Tatum. See, to me,
Tatum is the keeper between Brown and Tatum. Yes, I like Brown a lot.
Right.
But Tatum has, younger, incredible upside already.
Yeah, but I mean, come on. You're saying younger as if Brown is 28. Brown is what, 21? This is like his second year in the NBA. I prefer not to get rid of either one of them because the sky's the limit with him as well. This really is a rich man problem, proverbially speaking. Danny Ainge has almost been too good at drafting over the last few years and making trades. So the good news for him and for the Boston Celtics fans is that he clearly has the assets to get the job done if he wants to trade for Anthony Davis. But he's most likely going to have to wait until near the trade deadline to see where Davis's stock is and where the New Orleans Pelicans stock is as a team by that time period.
Already excellent.
Younger, incredible upside, but again, Jaylen Brown's like 21 years of age. He's got a tremendous upside. This dude ain't no senior citizen, and I think his skill set complements Anthony Davis better. Not to mention this important point, Max. Boston's got a dilemma here, and let me break this down. On one hand, you get Anthony Davis because guess what? If you get Anthony Davis in Boston, Cleveland's no longer the favorite to come out of the East.
One can make the case that they're not the favorite right now. I would still give them the edge because of experience and what LeBron has done in the playoffs over the last few years. But word around the campfire is that even within the Cleveland locker room that they feel like this year is different in regards to their chances of coming out of the East and coming out of the doldrums when the time is right.
I'm telling you right now, it's the Boston Celtics. Make no mistake about it. That's number one. But number two, if you're Boston, it behooves you to get him because make no mistake about it, the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to try to get Anthony Davis themselves. And if you sit up there and pair LeBron with Anthony Davis, I got news for the Golden State Warriors. You are no longer the favorite. Anthony Davis with LeBron James? Oh, no, you ain't the favorite. Oh, yes, I said it. I didn't stutter. Anthony Davis with LeBron James. The Golden State Warriors are no longer the favorite.
No, they'd still be the favorites. You know why, Stephen A?
They will still be the favorites. Give me a break, Stephen A. But besides that, what is Cleveland going to trade to get Anthony Davis? I don't see Cleveland having the assets to get Anthony Davis. They don't have any young assets.
They'd still be the favorites because there's not enough, they've just been playing together longer. Next year, I would agree with you, LeBron and Anthony Davis, if they had time to build around that nucleus also. But I think if you just dropped Anthony Davis right now onto the Cleveland Cavs, considering what you have to give up, Warriors still the favorites.
Absolutely. And is Anthony Davis going to improve LeBron's defense and the defense of whoever's left on that team? I think that Stephen A. maybe he's just trying to come with a hot take. The Cavaliers have a lot of problems. It's not just that they don't have a great big man. There's no unity within that team on defense, which really seems to reveal that there's no unity with them in the locker room. Because defense is far more indicative of team play than even offense is. Because defense often entails that you have to give yourself up for your teammates, that you have to cover your teammates back. So I don't see them trading for Anthony Davis for a myriad of reasons. I just don't see him going to Cleveland, but you never know. Once Adam Silver gets involved and tries to help out his boo LeBron, who knows? But I just see the Boston Celtics having far more assets to trade for an Anthony Davis.
Well, see, here's the deal. I disagree, and here's why. Number one, we can't applaud the cerebral cortex of a LeBron James and his basketball brilliance and then forget that brilliance could come into play. If you got a brilliant basketball player like Anthony Davis, chances are if you're the Cleveland Cavaliers and you lucked up and you were fortunate enough to get your hands on an Anthony Davis, you'd have to give up somebody like a Kevin Love in order to pull that off.
Right.
And you really believe that that the New Orleans Pelicans are going to take back Kevin Love for Anthony Davis, Steve? You'd have to give up Kevin Love, and you'd have to give up a draft pick, and you'd probably have to give up 2 other pieces as well. And still, I think that New Orleans will not accept that trade. I mean, you have to ask yourself, would you rather get back Kevin Love in that trade, or would you rather get back a Jaylen Brown or a Jason Tatum and an Al Horford and a first-round draft pick, and who knows what else Boston has in their coffers? And that's not even considering involving a 3rd and a 4th team. I just don't see it.
Which creates matchup nightmares for the Golden State Warriors on both ends of the floor. So we have to think about it from that perspective as well. But I will also say this. Again, one of the reasons why Boston has to pay attention to Anthony Davis being pursued by the Boston Celtics, the reason why is because, again, you have to negate the possibility of him landing in Cleveland. I think it's a long shot. I don't think that could happen.
So then why are you bringing it up for? It's obvious that it's not going to happen, brother. I mean, let's be for real.
But it's worth pointing out, Max, Boston's got the pieces, and they got pieces and picks.
Thank you, sir. I just said that.
But also, here's the deal, Max, with Cleveland. You have to remember that Dan Gilbert, when he elected to trade Kyrie Irving, LeBron James said, according to my sources, I want to ride with the horses that we have. You don't need to make this move. Dan Gilbert then wanted him to commit to 3 to 5 years. I'm not saying this is going to happen by any stretch. It's all hypothetical. But I pose this question to you, Max. What if LeBron James stepped back and he said to Gilbert, you get me Anthony Davis, I'll stay?
Well, that's you trying to act as a business representative for LeBron James, and you're not qualified to do that. For all intents and purposes, LeBron James has shown that he is not willing to allow anyone to dictate to him what type of a contract he should sign and when he should sign it. So no, I don't believe that he's going to sign a contract based off of a stipulation that they're going to get in Anthony Davis. I believe, based off of LeBron's recent track record, that he's going to wait until the end of this season to sign a contract with the Cleveland Cavaliers or with any other team, no matter what happens. Now, if Dan Gilbert were able to get an Anthony Davis, the best reason to get him, if you're Dan Gilbert, is so that you don't need LeBron to sign off on an extension. You could tell LeBron, okay, have a nice day. You can leave. We're going to sign AD, and we're going to sign a guard, maybe another wing, and that's that.
Sure. But I still think Boston, who knows? You're right, but I still think Boston, this is why Danny Ainge has done such a great job. They have an organizational advantage because Gilbert's a terrible owner. Danny Ainge, on the other hand, is a great GM, and he has the most assets to make any trade. So when Kyrie's available, who's most likely to get him? Boston. They're in the best position to do it. If Anthony Davis is available, who's in the best position to get him? Boston. They have the best assets to go and do it.
Yes, sir.
Do it. And I want to say something else about Boston, Stephen A., because, look, Alvin Gentry's a good coach, right? They're 3 games.
That trout mouth fool ain't no damn good coach. Every time you look at the sideline, he's making a face with his mouth like he wants you to throw him back in water so he can go back and swim with the fishes with his ancestors. That man looked just like a damn guppy. I was on the sideline. Get back on D. Then shut up.
3 games above 500 with the 2 best big men in the world because the Pelicans are a mess. It's not a good organization. But Boston is, and a lot of that has to do with the GM, but the GM went out and got a great young coach. And so as long as you have Brad Stevens and Kyrie Irving, you have a nucleus there, and Danny Ainge is a GM. I wouldn't worry about need. Like, well, Jaylen Brown complements this guy better than Tatum does. I think it's a mistake to worry about the specific form of the talent you have in the NBA at first. The much more important thing is get the most talented players, get the best players. Kyrie, Anthony Davis, I try to hold on to Tatum because he is special, I think, given his age and already his ability.
But that's where you're hedging. But that's where you're hedging. And here's why I say you're hedging, Max. Because you're saying I would like to hold on to it. We get that. Who on earth wouldn't like to hold on to both Jaylen Brown and Tatum? And you've already articulated that you have to, if you had to give up one, it would be Jaylen over Tatum.
Brown.
I get that. Yeah, Jaylen Brown over Tatum. I get that. But Max Kellerman, I am the New Orleans Pelicans. I'm Dell Demps. You dealing with me. You want Anthony Davis. Max, I want Jason Tatum with Horford.
Well,
and you know what? I'll give that up. I'll give that up. And for another reason, I'll give you Tatum in addition to Horford, because it's better to keep Jaylen Brown because Jaylen can play both the 2 and the 3. I don't believe that Jason Tatum can guard the 2 right now. And he most likely won't be able to another 5 years when he puts on weight. The thing is that when Gordon Hayward comes back from his injury, he certainly won't be able to guard the 2s because his foot speed is going to be highly compromised for at least another year. So you're going to need somebody who's going to guard 2s. So Jaylen Brown would be preferable over Jason Tatum if you're forced to make that decision. I believe that Tatum has the greater upside. But in regards to how or who would fit in better on a Boston Celtics team with an Anthony Davis, I would say Jaylen Brown.
Period. What you doing?
Listen.
What you doing?
If push comes to shove and you have a chance to get Anthony Davis.
I'm pushing you. What you doing?
Yeah, you can have him.
There you go. That's all I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
You have to give that up for a guy in Anthony Davis who's going to give you size and skill and a defensive presence down low. You just have to hope that he stays healthy.
If you have a chance to get Anthony Davis, he is in this era where we say, oh, that's a generational player. No, that's a you never seen a guy like that. Anthony Davis is the guy. He's right there with Durant and Kawhi and is likely to take over from LeBron.
But that's a negotiation, and that's what I'm saying to you. That's a negotiation. Yeah.
This is all assuming that they're not able to involve a third and a fourth team, which will allow them to keep all their assets. I'm sure that Danny Ainge is thinking far more creatively than either one of these two.
Negotiation is, well, could you give me one of these two? It don't work that way.
Go. Guess what? You made him an offer.
But anyway, as Molly Karam has stated, we have to go. We'll see what happens with this. I believe that Davis's performance in Boston last night is going to throw a monkey wrench into the Boston Celtics plans because it's going to raise his value so high that I'm sure that New Orleans is going to be asking for more than one of their current assets, meaning both Brown and Tatum and Horford and a draft pick. So we'll see. I think that Danny Ainge is going to wait a while, see if he can get that dish to simmer a little bit, and then come back to them probably the last week of January, first week of February with a package involving a third and a fourth team, just to see how accessible Davis may be. But anyway, peace.